Hello, trading is closed on January 7th, 2021. We always start with our disclaimer, then we review our calls and go over our predictions. It's my trading plan for tomorrow, January 8th, 2021. Gapping smartly in the undesired direction kills the call before the open. No guarantee I'm right. If you're going to risk money, trade at your own risk. My email is mejt.trades@gmail.com. Today's call was for the early low. There it is, and tomorrow's pattern also has the early low. We said yesterday's action was negative, and unless we gapped and promptly overtook the day's high, we should see lower prices. We gapped and promptly overtook the day's high, so no call. Tomorrow's pattern has the early low. Typically, it's a rally day, but if there's early weakness, it does a 180 and it leads to additional weakness. So the open tomorrow should be important. Let's review the calls from today. Said this drop was false. This is a MEJT plus 4 buy signal described in my book, but it says that rally it called for was also false. Not telling us anything about tomorrow. Let's look at some other things. This is a weekly chart. Now, as you know, I've given up on DeMark's stuff. It just fails too many times. We now have one of his most powerful negative signals. We have a 9-13-9 combo and sequential sell signal on the weekly chart. Now the stop loss is based on closing prices, and it certainly hasn't been invalidated yet. Just tells you the area of the top, not the actual top. But if it fails, it tends to fail in grand style. So I'm not going to count too much on his methodology, but his methodology says if we don't drop here, we have a strong advance ahead of us. We broke through some important resistance areas, but the move still has to be confirmed. We broke through this meeting of the Gann fan lines that has to be confirmed by action tomorrow. Otherwise, it could be a false move. Not saying it is. We went too high over my price target for me to be confident. Now, if it drops tomorrow, you could say it's just a 0.5%, but that's really too much for me. So we have to come up with a different target. Now I have one at 39.20, but there is one other target along the way, at least, one that I found. Come to it in a minute. Just want to remind you, the beginning of the year, I said the first 1 to 2 days of action in the first week of a calendar year tends to be completely reversed by trading the rest of the week. That'll be, I haven't seen that published anywhere, but somebody wants to look back at some old charts, he'll see that it's true. So where's the next target? Well, if we stop here, it's today's high. I don't usually use timing too much. There's a proprietary system of a friend of mine which has today as a top, but what isn't proprietary is George Lindsay's low to high pattern. You take the last, it doesn't have to be the last two lows, but you take two major lows, take the time distance in days, and that should be the next high. That comes in today. You can take a Fibonacci target of the prior consolidation. That's today's high. You can take a trend line connecting these lows and highs. They all come together right at today's high. Now, if we can gap over this and hold it, we've broken over major resistance, and the expectation would be the rally would continue, and probably not by just a little bit. And all we have to do is to gap and promptly take out today's high. And if it's the market's intention to continue higher. That isn't too far away. So it shouldn't really be all that high, all that hard. I'm not saying we're going to drop right from the open. I've been fooled too many times. But if this holds, I can explain it after the fact. Tomorrow's pattern has the early low. It could gap up. Typically, it's a rally day with a final hour high. Early weakness typically leads to more declines in the days ahead, even if the rest of the day rallies. We gapped up, rallied all day, and closed under the midday highs. It's a negative pattern. But all we need to do to erase the negativity and invalidate its implications is to gap and promptly overtake today's high. It's not like it's so far away that it's impossible to do. Were that to happen, if that happens, has to hold it too. The market would have overcome very strong resistance, needing only confirmation the next trading day to seal the deal. If we do drop right from the open, I can explain today's high holding. If not, my next target is 39.20. Other numbers may work too. I just don't happen to see them right now. I thought we had a good chance of yesterday's high holding, but I said then, and I'll repeat again, until some prior lows fall, you can't be certain the top's in spite of all the sentiment indicators, which have been screaming caution for a couple of months now. So here's the latest candidate. We're going to keep going up. When we gap over that, my next candidate's over 100 handles away. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. But if we drop sharply, and I'm not saying we will, because that's pretty impressive. But if we do, I can explain the drop from here after the fact. Tomorrow's pattern has the early low, and that's today's call.